Hello everyone, welcome back to Garden Fever. Today I got another exciting episode today for you. I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about crop rotating in small gardens. A lot of people don't do it. When it seems like after it reaches a certain size, people just kind of plant in different areas and that's basically all that they do for it. I have a method that I use, and it's not the only method out there. There's lots of different methods, but I think this is a good one for small gardens. I'll apply this to large gardens, however it does entail a little bit of work, so it works better for small gardens. But most people don't rotate their crops, or they don't give any kind of the soil any kind of a break when they're gardening in small gardens, whether it's through containers, it's an apartment, it's a condo. They have a limited amount of space. The solution just is to throw more compost on it for most people, or some sort of a fertilizer or additive to kind of beef up their plants. And each year the soil kind of degrades, especially if it's in the ground. When they're growing it in straight compost, like in pots, and they buy soil mix or whatever, and they just kind of keep adding to it. It can be done this way, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you have it in the ground like what you see here, after so many years, you can't just buy tons of bags of soil and spread it everywhere. Well, I mean, you could, but it requires a lot amount of money, and not everybody has that. So how do you condition your soil? How do you build soil? How do you keep the nutrients in the soil in a small garden without buying tons of additives or going to the store and buying bags all each year and buying compost or making compost and throwing it on? Nature will build soil on its own. We just have to help it. We have to just make sure the conditions for soil growth is there, and it'll do it on its own. There is a difference between soil and compost and fertilizer, and I've made this mistake many times whenever I'm talking. I always say soil when I'm talking about compost, and it can be very confusing on the difference. I'm not doing a video on that. I actually have another video coming where I go into a lot of detail on that. Today I'm talking about crop rotation and how do you do that in a small garden? Well, as you can see through the way I've got it set up right now, right here is a pathway. Okay, the number one most important thing you can do for your soil is protect it. Give it some shelter, and you do that through mulch, through compost, through debris. As you can see, I've got some compost. Well, this is more like mulch because it's not thick enough. But I didn't want to buy tons of bags of soil, so I decided to try and rehabilitate my soil naturally, which is a very long process. I've been here several years, and I am seeing better soil, but it is a work-intensive, slow process. It is much easier to just go to the store and buy a bunch of bags and dump it on the top of your topsoil, and voila, you've got some nutrients on your soil, or compost or whatever. Doing it the hard way is the hard way, literally. So what I've done is I've prepared a method, and I'm going to explain that a little bit today, and that's the point of this video, is how exactly do I do that. And I'll give you a little tour here in a second, just to kind of give you a better visual, because you might not be able to see it that great from that point. I don't have the greatest camera equipment yet, but if you notice right here, there's all kinds of yard debris, old weeds, mulch, leaves, that kind of thing. I did score some cedar mulch that I've spread around, so I haven't 100% done it the natural way. I have stumbled across some things that people have given me and various things, but I've not gone out into the stores and pursued that in this bed. I wanted to use this bed as an example to show people kind of how you can just help it naturally move along and build soil rather than just buying it. And I do that by cleaning out underneath the plants, because having a dirty garden can cause lots of issues, and I've had some issues over here, and that's another video on some of my plants, and I believe the source of it was because of straining from the heat and the fact that I carry a dirtier garden than a lot of people. So what what I do is when I weed, I pull all of the weeds and I dump it in the paths that I used to walk. And I grow my plants here, I walk here. That's why over underneath the plants is a lot cleaner than right here. Okay? And I rotate until every other year. I don't do it every year because I think it's too much. You're killing the microorganisms and the beneficial fungi in the soil. Not having a cover kills the soil. And like I said, I'm not getting into that this time, but I will put up a video explaining the details of how that happens and why, for those of you who are unfamiliar with that. But having a shelter for your soil is crucial in the microorganisms and the worms and the life that exists within the soil, and they're the ones that create the soil. They add more to it each year. Without those microorganisms and beneficial fungi and stuff, it becomes mineral soil. Dirt is dead soil. You want living soil, loose and loomy. You want it to have aggregates, which are produced by these microorganisms, so that it can drain good, it can hold water good. So you want to shelter your soil. I think this is a very big mistake that a lot of people make, is they till it, which is basically Armageddon to these microorganisms, because then they leave it exposed to the sun. The 100 degree, 90, 100 degree temperatures, that radiation from the sun is just killing all the living organisms on top of it. You've got to have a cover. So you can buy mulch, you can do it in various ways. Because I wasn't going to go out and buy tons of bags or tons of, a truckload of soil to raise my soil level up and then grow my plants in it. I had to do it from scratch. This is a 50-year-old home. No one had treated the soil or done anything for this other than maybe water the grass since the house was built in 1952. It was hard, it was clay, it was mineral soil, it was dirt. And maybe deep down in the clay you got some living organisms, but it was very, very hard and difficult for my plants to get to it. So it will rehabilitate this, and I rotate every other year, so this will be the second year that this particular area has never been touched. It's just been, I've been throwing all the fall leaves, everything I can get, anything that's compostable, anything that I can add to my soil. I either throw it in my compost pile and break it up before I put it on, or I put it directly on. All the weeds have nutrients too. They're just inconvenient and can overgrow our plants, so we hate them. So we just want to yank them all out, but they are actually a vital part of soil growth. So put the weeds here. As you can see, and you'll see my garden, I let some weeds grow. If I'm not growing in the area and a weed pops up, I let it sit there. If it's right next to the plants or underneath it where it can grow into it or overgrow it, I'll yank it and put it in the path. And then next year, I'm going to take all these plants here and I'm going to grow them right here. I'm going to till all this in, break it up good, till it in 1 year, and then not do it again for a while, for a couple of years, and grow right here. And then where you see my plants growing now is where next year I'll throw all the debris and everything and start creating a blanket, basically a carpet or a rug, if you will, over your soil. There are all kinds of things you can use to do that. There are so many videos, there's so much information out there on types of things that you can mulch with, what's good, what's bad. I'm not here doing a video on that. I'm just stating that in small gardens, people forget to do this. They don't move their crops around. They don't condition their soil. They expose it. It's just sitting there baking in the sun. And I don't know about you, but if you sat in the sun for weeks in 100 degree temperature, what's going to happen to your body? What's going to happen to your skin? What's going to happen to, it's going to burn. So what do you think happens to all the microorganisms that are sitting on the soil completely exposed to the weather, and then rain, all the nutrients gets pushed down quickly. It turns to 100 degrees the next day and just fries it. This is not good for soil regrowth. So you got to rotate. That's the point of this video, is you've got to rotate. And in a small garden, it's hard when you have space. So let me break free from the explanation and kind of give you an example and walk around. This is not 100% kept up. I'm a family man, and I let some of it go. However, I've noticed since I've been doing this, each year my growth gets just a little bit healthier, a little bit greener. course, on making progress. However, please keep in mind this is labor intensive. This is not the easy way out. This is someone that has, this is a method that has to be used by someone that is very diligent in their garden. They love it. It's a passion. They want to treat it good. They want to spend some time with it. This is for the avid gardener. The lazy gardener sit on the couch. This might not be the method for you. You might want to save your money and just buy a bunch of mulch or hay or put your grass clippings in it. You can do that. I do everything I can get my hands on without going to the store and spending hundreds of dollars on it. So with that, I'll let you go, and I'll give you kind of a garden tour. And hopefully this method will help you guys. Like I said, there are other methods. This isn't the only one. This is just the one I use and have been using because I want to show over time how to build your soil if you're dirt poor and you can't go out and just buy all kinds of additives. Yeah, I mean, if I can spend $1,000 on, you know, coconut coir, rock dust, tons of compost, and mix it in all scientifically in a $1,000 composter, and then throw it onto my soil, yeah, that's going to be have great results. But how do you do it if you can't afford any of that and you're dirt poor and you just want to plant a seed and grow some food? Well, that you take the weeds and the debris in your own yard and you recycle it. Everything you can, you recycle. So I mat it. I call it matting. I mat it down. I layer it. It's the same thing as mulching, or you're basically putting a roof over the microorganisms' heads. And at the same time as it breaks down, it feeds those microorganisms, which in turn makes better soil. It makes it healthier, makes it more loose and loomy. So we're going to go ahead and cut it from here. I know that my average view time is about 3 minutes, and it's incredibly difficult to get all this information out to people within 3 minutes. So I'm shooting for 5, and that's going to be my window. So we're going to try and keep it that way the best I can. Okay, we'll just walk the path so you can kind of see. I'll give you some plants. Everybody likes looking at the plants. These are my cherry tomatoes and tomatoes. And see, all this debris is just debris that I've collected over the years. I let some weeds grow. If they get too close to the plants themselves, as you can see, that's when I start weeding. And I mulch comfrey. That is another thing that I do. I chop and drop it, and then I go around here. This is where we start getting into my cucumbers and zucchinis. So chunks like this I won't mulch in when I mulch, or when I till it in next year. This path that I'm showing you is where I'm going to till. I'll throw that into the middle where I'm going to mat next year, which is where you see all these plants. So you can kind of see how I don't leave the soil, the topsoil, exposed. You can see right through here. This is kind of what I was working with before I got here. Real hard mineral soil, just not healthy. I'm slowly conditioning that. This process is very slow. This isn't the quick fix. This isn't instant gratification. This is very patient gardening. But in the long run, what I'm doing for the soil is rebuilding it. I'm making it a healthy place for microorganisms to live again. And that is so important in the world and has been forgotten. It's a method that has been forgotten. Now, I know a lot of people will mulch their flower beds, but they do it because it looks good. They do it with colored mulch, painted mulch. I've even seen rubber mulch, which just blows my mind, but they, you know, it's out there. So, and it's not really, they're not really doing it with the intention to feed the microorganisms and beneficial fungi within the soil. They're just trying to make it look good and uniform so that their neighbors can say, wow, they got a nice yard. They're not really looking at long term how they're going to farm there or grow food there within the next 10-15 years. Now, obviously this doesn't apply to everybody, but it applies to a lot of people. So this is a quick tip on how to rotate. So rotate your crops, feed your soil. So as you can see, this row is going to go here next year, and then all of this is going to be where I mat down, and then I'll do that for a year or so and mat here for a year and a half, and then the second year I'll till this again and regrow. Everything I can find I put back into the soil. If it's compostable, it's not hazardous to the environment or my health, it goes back into my soil. And I mean everything, from hair clippings to nail clippings to dust to lint from the dryer. Every single thing that I can do, I do. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough this video. I know people like shorter videos. So this is Garden Fever. I'm Corey Lefevre. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment. If you have any ideas, suggestions, or info you want to add to it, please feel free to comment. Till next time.